Real quick, before we start this podcast episode, I just want to say thank you for tuning into the Marc Colcer podcast. I know you've got a million things that you could be doing right now, and the fact that you're taking time out of your day to watch this podcast episode truly means the world to me, and I just want to say thank you for that. If you'd like to continue to support the podcast, right below this video, if you could hit the subscribe button, and then, hey, if you got some more time and you want to hit the download button, the comment button, the like button, the share button, any of those buttons, it's greatly, greatly appreciated. It helps for other people to find out about the podcast, and it helps for you to be notified about future episodes. So if you guys could take a quick second, hit the subscribe button, I would really appreciate that. Outside of that, this episode and every other episode is brought to you guys by Roast Umber Coffee. As some of you guys know, I co-founded Roast Umber Coffee, and we have the greatest farmers in Guatemala and Honduras and the greatest roaster in Grand Rapids, Michigan, all to bring you guys the greatest cup of coffee possible. So if you'd like to try it out, go to our website, use the coupon code MARC30, and you're going to get 30% off your coffee. Now on to the episode. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Welcome to the Marc Colcer Podcast. All right, dude, you ready to rock this?
Let's get it.
I mean, I feel like we got to start off the podcast by just mentioning you look fire, you know? We just got the y00tletics.
Appreciate it, you know.
We got the y00tletics hoodie. We got the Utes hat. I don't know what the glasses are, but we got the Apple Watch. The drip is all immaculate, you know?
Some light.
Some light.
Some stupid light. I see you with the win-win on the chest.
Oh, man. I've been looking forward to this for a minute, dude. I think we've recorded 3 times, right?
Yeah. Or this might be the 3rd time.
Something like that. Yeah. Something like that. Because and I feel like I've mentioned that now in a few podcasts. You know, the whole thing is we got to get it right, right? And I feel like so we recorded right after I moved into this place, and then it was like we just the setup wasn't right yet. You were the first person to actually sit on this couch for a podcast, right?
Yeah, I was sitting in that seat. That's the funniest part.
Yep. And I realized I was like, no, this is actually my side. Oh, but the well, because the angle, yeah. I like this angle for whatever reason. It is what it is.
I feel it. You gotta look good in your own podcast.
But then we recorded again, and it was like. There's just kept more and more stuff just kept happening with y00tletics, and we were like, you know what, we just got to get this right. And so there's been so much good stuff happening as of recently. Like, this is the perfect time to have this episode. So, dude, for people who don't know who you are, can you give a brief intro to yourself?
Yeah, I go by Sonny. Formerly, for the real ones, they know me as Maanz. And I've been in, crypto and NFTs for a little over 2.5 years. And yeah, started through NBA Top Shot, and then
we're gonna run into that in a second. All right,
all that good stuff. But yeah, that's who I am, and I just like to do cool shit.
There we go. So what were you doing with your life before getting into crypto, NFTs, all that kind of stuff?
So I was mainly working for startups, couple bigger companies as well in Web 2, mostly on the business development side of things. Then. During that time, I kind of got into some entrepreneurial ventures, if you would. Got a little bit into the music industry. Managed a homie of mine. He goes by Mac Woods, and I was rapping for a little bit too.
Okay.
If you didn't know, and put out music on Apple Music, Spotify. Started doing a couple shows, put out some merch, and just like was trying to just get it on and popping, get it live. And through that, was just kind of really discovering myself in a way by creating more and like what I like to do, not like to do. Cause then I got into more like, trying to grow on Instagram and create content on Instagram. A lot of it was like travel content and was like huge in that. I was taking a lot of trips and, just kind of learning, along the way. And so it's been a lot of fun, just like both in career wise as well as, going through those entrepreneurial ventures, and it led me into crypto, just kind of continuing to go down that rabbit hole. I feel like it's almost like a mind switch, if you would, when you start really wanting to like do something for yourself, create for yourself, build outside of what your regular like 9 to 5 might be, whatever the case is. And I feel like as you start doing that, you go down different rabbit holes and different things that catch your interest. And yeah, that's how I kind of fumbled into NFTs because of that. Got into NBA Top Shot, obviously big basketball fan. And that was my first introduction to NFTs.
I feel like, and I think that's because, there's always like that tweet that goes viral every once in a while that's like, why don't they teach us about this kind of stuff in school, right? And it's like, because the reality of it is, if like everybody understood how to be like financially successful, there'd have to be a new way to become financially successful. Because if everybody was doing it, then the opportunity isn't there, right?
Yeah.
So the reality of it is, you do have to kind of go out on your own and learn some things, right? You do have to reach out to people who are doing well and ask them what they're doing, right? And you have to be the aggressive person, kind of the, and you can't just react to everything. You gotta actually go and make things happen, right? And there's no way to really like, they can't teach you that in school. Like you have to go and do that yourself, right? And I feel like that's one of the reasons why I lead off every podcast with like, how did you get into crypto and NFTs? Because it's not something where you're going to be, maybe in college classes now, maybe they sometimes talk about it, but let's be real. We're still far along way from like in a finance class, like them probably bringing up crypto and talking about it in depth, right? So the reality of it is, you have to go out and find your own way into this whole space and things like that. And so for you, it was NBA Top Shot. And so what led you to NBA Top Shot? What made you curious about it? What was your thoughts on it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, as far as like the classes go, I mean, me personally, like the education system, it kind of is what it is. But for myself, it's like, it's always been about that hands-on experience. And there's, almost no better teacher than like actual hands-on experience. And I think that's the main thing about it. And to your point of like financial, like, even freedom, it's like there's so many different routes of it. Like even for people that are in like Web3 and NFTs now, it's like that might not necessarily be the specific route that like gets you financial freedom in terms of like trading or investing or whatever, but there may be other aspects that come up, and you just have to keep your options open while still like pursuing things there. But going into NBA Top Shot, I mean, for me, it was just like I had a homie who was a sports card collector. And when I saw NBA Top Shot come up, I mean, I was kind of already, paying attention to crypto. I was investing in crypto, like buying Bitcoin, couple other coins as well. Doge, like back in 2017 when that whole SNL thing happened. And, so I was familiar with it. But when I saw NBA Top Shot, it was actually in like I think it was like I was like in a reseller Discord or something like that, where they like resold shoes and like different merch and like all this type of stuff. And I'd found them through Twitter. And so they had mentioned NBA Top Shot, and I was like, yo, what are these? Like these digital collectibles of NBA highlights? Like what could there be value to this? Trying to understand a little bit more about sports collectors. And so what really brought me in was just the fact that it's like, one, like I could use a credit card to buy it, and two, it was basketball. It was NBA, right? Like I could own a Steph Curry moment or, LeBron or something like that. And they were making some stupid money during that first like beta phase of,
that was
I
a
think
wild.
Like December, like, there was like some LeBron James cards going for, I think for like $100K or something like that. And I just got in like right at that moment. Like, it was cool for like but it was like a huge, just like high right there at like that first month and a half, and then it kind of lulled out from there. There's definitely some more plays like as the months go, but I think right now they're kind of in a mode of like figuring it out. But through that, I wanted to get into other NFTs, and so that's when I like came across Solana. I kind of missed the Bored Ape wave, and when I discovered Solana, I think it was September, so like I'm probably like a little less than a month after like the first effort mints, like SMB DAA, and I was just like, I'm gonna get involved here, because one, it was frictionless because of like the less gas prices, and obviously like everybody raves about the UI UX of it, and I think that was the easiest part of just like onboarding to it.
And there was, I think one of the reasons, going back to NBA Top Shot for a second, one of the reasons why I think NBA Top Shot just never really hit, and I'm not saying they can't at some point. I think they had a cool idea, but they never really developed the community, right? And I think a big part of obviously what we're going to be talking about today is the community, right? Because when you talk about DGods, and both of us obviously minted DGods, it's like we've been a part of the growth of the community, right? And I think when you think about NBA Top Shot, they had all this buzz going, but there wasn't necessarily a way for people to like really rally behind, like, were you going to rally behind a specific player? Well, there's too many players, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to rally behind a team? Well, they didn't really do a good job of like making teams a big part of that, right? And so there was no real way for you to kind of develop that sense of community.
And with NFTs, it was pretty quickly like all of a sudden you had all these people who were rallying for this one NFT project, right? And so all of you kind of came together, you start supporting this project. And then if the team was kind of, leading in the right direction, then that community could become that much more powerful, right? And so for you, I guess, like, what was your first moment where you were like, okay, I'm kind of all in on this whole NFT thing? Like, I really think like Solana NFTs are going to be a big thing. Like, what sold you on it?
Yeah. I mean, what's funny about that whole aspect of community, and this is probably something that we'll touch on later, but like in NBA Top Shot, like I think the kind of more sub communities have been the ones that kind of have kept it together. Like one for me that comes to mind is a Top Shot Kingdom, and it's a bunch of Kings fans that collect Top Shot moments. And I've seen them do like outings and like things to preseason games and that sort of thing, and kind of just like build that community aspect. And even with me and my homies, like we had just like randomly started a Discord to talk about Top Shot, and then ended up just doing some degen shit, like betting Top Shot moments on games. So it'd just be like peer to peer in the Discord. We'd just be like, all right, like who wants to take this bet, take the lines, and just like, all right, cool. We're gonna bet Top Shot moments on these NBA playoff games and whatnot. And I think that was my first kind of like realization in terms of like what communities could possibly be in NFTs. And so getting into Solana, it's like that's where I really started seeing, because once I got onto like the crypto Twitter side, and specifically more like the Solana side of things, it was just like, damn, like a lot of people are talking about it. Obviously the no gas fees and the design of it just made it really easy to onboard and just start, kind of messing around. And that was even the time where like Magic Eden first came up, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, people don't even give them credit fully for the fact that they like got this like actually really dope marketplace up within like 4 or 5 weeks. Like it's kind of nuts when you think about it, because like their marketplace has been such a easy way to onboard people, like since that time, you know what I mean? And I think that was a lot of the reasons that just like, kept me involved. And then obviously like going through mints, and then of course minting DGods, and that was an experience in itself. That was actually like, I was at a point where it was potential. I was like, oh damn, I got like 3 SOL left in my wallet, like a little over 3 SOL. I was like, fuck, should I spend it all on this mint? I don't know. Because everybody was kind of chasing plays and whatnot in terms of like, what that next flip might be. A couple rugs already happened at that point. It's just a part of the game. And I was like, fuck it. I was just on Twitter, right place, right time. And then, yeah, when I saw the one that I got in my wallet, the God jersey, I was like, nah, this is the best NFT I've minted on Solana so far. And I ended up finding out that it was a mythic too. So I was just like, this is the rarest NFT that I've minted on Solana so far. So I was like, I was hyped at that point. Even, yeah, it was dope.
Yeah, and so for people who don't know, you're a huge basketball fan. So we got to put that out there, because if somebody's like, I don't get, why you love that basketball jersey so much, it's because you're a huge basketball fan. Ever since I've seen you, you've always been posting your clips of you playing basketball. Also, if people can't tell, you're tall as shit. You're like, what, 6'7"?
6'5".
6'5".
Well, I appreciate.
I'll round
extra.
up.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm 5'7", so to me you look 6'7". Okay, we're gonna round up. Okay, so he's 6'7", and you're filthy at basketball, and you've been posting your clips forever. And so, one of the first times that I saw you was when you created the DeGoat merch, right? You had the basically the basketball shorts, right, that you had created. And we'll put a photo up so people can see those. But walk me through, like, why did you decide to create those? And, like, because that was the first time where I really saw this, and I was like, man, that's, like, super, super high-quality shit. So, like, what made you go and create those?
Yeah, so pretty much, like, as I mentioned, like, a little bit before, my background in doing some of that merch when we were going through that era of kind of trying to build a brand and that record label. I was playing around with like different types of merch too. Like back then, like we did hoodies and did t-shirts and kind of some of the standard stuff. But I had gotten these like shorts made that were like really dope. They were stitched and like had our logo on them. And I had gotten these like really dope like satin bomber jackets made too, like with our logo on them and like our artist name on the back and shit like that. And it was just like the company itself was like really dope, and I'd like always established a relationship with them. And so going back to the DGoat stuff, shout out to the Mickey D Gods, because they were definitely the inspiration behind like creating like a D Goat sub DAO, and there was a couple other people within the community that had these jerseys that were like all about the jerseys as well. And so, linked up with a couple of them, and we were just like, yeah, let's create this, have like our own, obviously like Twitter group chat and like that sort of thing. That's more so what it is. And I wanted to bring this jersey to life. That was really just the biggest thing, was just like, I want to bring this jersey to life. And so I reached out to that company that I know that did it, and we just mocked up some cool designs and got them done. And that was a very early phase of it, because it was just available to like the people within that group chat, and it was just like something that we came together on in terms of like being able to get it done. Because even something like that, like just doing like a single individual piece would be like really, really pricey, you know what I'm saying? But because we were able to get like 5, 6, 7 people on board in terms of like ordering the jerseys or ordering the shorts, or even both, we were able to make that happen. So it was really dope how it came together.
What role do you think like the DGOD team played in the creation of that? And what I mean by that is, like, I feel like when we first started with NFTs, there were some projects who were super open with like, hey, go do whatever. We don't really give a shit. And there were some other projects who were like, we control the IP. We're creating the merch. We're doing this. We're doing that. And like, basically, you just wait for us, basically.
Yeah.
Or some that just didn't do shit. And those obviously tended to fade out. But the DGOD team was pretty much right away, was kind of like, hey, we're cool with you guys doing whatever, as long as it's obviously like respectful and not hateful in any way. And so, what role did that play in you deciding to create the DGOAT merch?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing was just, to your point, like being able to utilize the IP in various ways is really dope, right? Because it's just like, then you can put things like on the shorts, like it's not just like, it doesn't say DGOAT on them, it says DGODs on the shorts and like has the logo. And honestly, initially too, I just wanted to make it available to the DGOATs, because I was like, my goal isn't to like profit off of this or like make a lot of money or anything like that. Like, I'm just trying to make some dope shit for the community and some stuff for us to rock, right? Because at that point, when I made them, I think we had just gotten like the first merch box from DGODs, which was like that hoodie, a t-shirt, and that sort of thing. And so I was like, I don't know, I want some other stuff to rock as well, and I want to bring this like basketball vision to life. And so them playing that role is really just like, I mean, you've built this brand, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've built this brand where like we can go out and do like some cool shit. We can, link up with some like-minded people and come together and like just make some shit happen, right? And in that case, it was merch, and being able to utilize their IP too. It allows you to just rep the brand fully, where it's like DGOAT is a little bit niche, if you would, right? And that's like a different thing to rep. But yeah, I think in terms of that, it's just like, it's them building that brand and allowing us the ability to just like build cool shit underneath it.
So fast forward, obviously, like a year and a half, right? Whatever it is. It's been a minute. So
yeah,
what do you think your like belief is now on the role of NFT merch, right? Like, we've seen a lot of projects come out with a lot of different merch. We've seen community members make merch for certain projects and everything like that. Like, what role do you think merch plays in the ecosystem? What role do you think it plays in like the growth of the NFT space in general? What are your overall thoughts on like NFT merch?
Yeah, I mean, simply put, merch is marketing. You know what I mean? It's a way for you to get your brand out, get your brand be seen, and also give the ability to the people that support your brand to rep your shit, right? It's like, if they're repping you in person, one, they feel good repping you, right? It's like this aspect of, I go back to like when I play basketball, like there's this saying that I have, like, look good, play good. And it's very similar to like when you're just dressing for every day, right? If you are in something that you really like or you really believe in or whatever the case may be, it's going to heighten like your mood, your vibe, and everything like that for the day, right? You're going to feel good in it. You're going to feel like you're looking good out and how you're presenting yourself. And so when it comes to like NFT projects making merch, it's like a lot of your holders are very much invested into your brand, and into your like overall aesthetic, if you would, however you're designing things, doing things, etc. Obviously the art. And so when you give them cool stuff to wear, like they're gonna wear the fuck out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to wear it all the time, and they're going to love wearing it every step of the way, which is like even doper. You know what I'm saying? But when they're out there, it's just like, it's giving that many more eyeballs to your brand wherever that they're going. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are going to all different places, and it's cool because like we've seen people wear it in all different types of locations, settings, like with people to different events, whatever the case may be. And like, that's all just like natural eyeballs onto your brand. And so I think it just helps, like, obviously overall brand awareness and just getting back to that whole merch is marketing.
All right, so so it's a little obvious if you can't tell. We actually we took a little break from the podcast. We had to go watch the Miami Heat game, Denver Nuggets, and we had to make some bets. I had to switch out of the hoodie because I was sweating my balls off. It's a little hot in here right now.
I got rugged by Marc's bets.
You got rugged by my bets. You joined me. You lost. You put on the nice baseball tee, the y00tletics baseball tee.
You know, some light.
So, we had to switch it up. But, okay, so where we ended off, we were talking about merch is marketing. And it really is marketing because at the end of the day, that is the most powerful form of marketing is word of mouth, right? So when you've got people talking about what you're doing, when you've got people rocking what you're doing, which is leading the conversation, right? All of that is word of mouth marketing at the end of the day, right? And so if you were talking to a team who was debating coming up with merch or putting together their like merch policy, and all that kind of stuff, what would you recommend to them in terms of things that you would 100% do, things you would 100% try to avoid, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably definitely avoid like the print on demand type of stuff. Try and make it more high quality if you can. Especially if you're a project that's minted out, you have funding, you're able to do that, you have a lot of hype around you. You definitely want to make sure like that quality is there. Now quality is a subjective piece. Like, that's one of those things where, different people like different stuff, different styles, different fits, all that sort of thing. But, if you're happy with that merch, like that's definitely something that you should create. And I wouldn't refrain from doing merch, especially now. It seems like it's almost anticipated more quickly because people want to rock that. And to be honest, you want people to rock that. Taking pictures, taking videos, all that sort of thing in your merch. So I wouldn't put merch completely in the back of your mind. And the second thing would be just like push the boundaries. Like do, you can do the tees, you can do the hoodies, that sort of thing. But like, what are some other things that you could potentially create to really push the boundaries of like what merchandise can be? Like we saw Pudgy Penguins, for example, like they pushed the boundaries with these toys, especially being on Amazon. That was super cool. Even just like the way that the checkout happened was really dope. But you're getting like these toy figurines in. I have mine on my desk just chilling, and it's just like cool to look at, and it's just cool to be there. And I think it's a dope way to like push their IP forward. And so thinking about merchandise that's kind of outside of that. I think the third thing too would just be like continuing to enable your community to create dope shit under your brand, supporting them how you can. Obviously everybody's not going to make like amazing high quality merch, whatever the case may be. And sometimes you're going to miss things, whatever the case is. But like as much as you can enable your community and support your community and people from the community that are listening to this, if you can also push the boundaries and push the limits of like the quality that you're putting out underneath this brand, I think that's just it's a great aligned incentives for a team.
Yeah, and I would say on top of that, know what you're good at, right? So, like, taking the Pudgy Penguins, for example, right? Luca has an extensive background with e-commerce along with a few other people on the team, right? On top of that, it's not like they went and produced the toys themselves. They went and worked with one of the largest toy manufacturers in the world, right? So it's like knowing what you're good at and really focusing on that. And so if you've got somebody on your team who's got like this well-known fashion background, has worked in the fashion industry and everything like that, then hey, I want you to get creative with cut and sew and all that kind of stuff. If that's not what your team's specialty is, man, let other people focus on that, right? Yeah. And so to me, the best thing that you can do as a team, and this goes for not just merch, but just for so many other aspects, encourage your community members to do what they're good at too, right? There's so many people in the space that have so many different talents and things like that. let those people shine and really see what they can come up with, right? Like we've seen other people in the, D Gods and Ute community that have come up with really cool things. We've seen the D Golf, we've seen D Goods that's come up with, like, they had a robe because one of the Ute characters had a robe. It's like, I don't want the team focusing on robes, but I would love for a community member to make that, and then that way we can continue to grow the IP, but without the team taking their attention away from the things that are actually going to build out the project, right? That's where this can really be like a beautiful, cohesive, relationship where if as a team, if you're encouraging the community members to do things that help build out the project without necessarily having those people have to be on the team in order to do those things, that's where you really, really grow what you're doing. But if the community members are always looking to the team to have to do everything, it's going to grow slower, right? Like that's the reality of it. And so to me, the more that you can, build out that relationship with your community so that they kind of know, hey, we can try some things. We can experiment. We can send the team. Maybe you have a PO box where community members can send things, and then you start to see what they're building out and all that kind of stuff. Like, to me, it's all about encouraging community members because they're essentially like your soldiers for your project, right? Yeah. And so there's so many of them that have so many creative ideas. Like, rely on those people, listen to those people, see what they come up with, and then that way you can focus on the bigger things, the things that probably take a little bit more time and are a little bit more important to the project, but just take more time to do. And so that's where, there's so many aligned incentives when it comes to NFT projects because holders want to see the project succeed. The team should want to see the project succeed. And so if you work together, you're going to have this beautiful, cohesive relationship. And I think that is, to me, what makes NFTs so special and something that we don't see in really many other aspects of really anything.
That's absolute facts. I mean, it's one of those things too where it's like, obviously with the project itself, like there has to be value to the project, and that value within the project is kind of what has those people underneath the community really wanting to build within it. I mean, you think of some of the, the top communities right now that kind of have that community builder mindset. Or to your point, like how, Luca partnered with that toy company, right? It's like you see things from like Clanosaurs, like them doing those baby clothing, like those, like I don't have a baby, but like if I did, would be dripped out in that because like that clothing looks super like high quality and the characters are dope. You know what I'm saying? It's like a cool, different way to see the IP. But I've also seen a lot of artists within that community just create different like art based off of like the Clano IP, right? And I think that's really cool. Or like even in Mad Lads, like you've seen like a lot of like subgroups come up from Mad Lads, probably some of the quickest since like Utes minted out, right? And even for that, like shout out to Jakey, to Soul Jakey, like they got him in on some like content creation, and he's been creating some mad content. And it's been really just dope to see, right? And it's like that's the type of stuff where it's like you see now those like projects really in like not only just enabling their community, but like selecting people from the community that they've seen been putting in work to like enable them to do even greater stuff for the project itself. And so yeah, to that point of just aligned incentives, it's just like as long as the project itself is continuing to build out, drive value to its project, you're going to have people that want to build out underneath it in terms of whatever they might be good at, whether that be merch, whether that be events, other types of products. Shout out to Milk with the cereal. Like it's just all different cool like products, right? Like I even have some dice with the D Gods and Utes logo on it. It's just like there's so many different things that are just coming from these like brands that are being created in real time right now.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like, and I think this goes to literally anybody who's in the NFT space. If you have some sort of skill or some sort of connection in something, man, show that off. Like it is like Soul Jakey, for example, you brought him up a second ago. He started posting his content. I can't remember how long ago that was, but I remember like one day having him like seeing him put out a tweet just basically being like, I was creating all this content before getting into NFTs, kind of like check it out, right? And he just started dropping it, and I was like, this content, one, is hilarious, and two, it's just crazy. And it was like, it was cool seeing him do that, but it's like people have to see you talk about it to even know that you can do that, right? And so that's the one thing that I think when it comes to this space is that we've got so many really talented people here, people who have a lot of connections and things like that. I do think there are some people who are kind of afraid to kind of put themselves out there like that.
For sure.
But it's like, man, do it because you never know what it could lead to, right? And there's so many benefits that like you and I have had from the ecosystem of just putting ourselves out there and making stuff happen. Nobody said to you, hey, you've got to create the D-Goat shorts, right? Like you decided to do that and it led to a lot of things for you, right? There's like nobody told me I had to create a podcast. I did it and then it led to some shit, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you just have to believe in yourself and put yourself out there. And you know, and even like when I put out the first podcast episode with Frank, no one really gave a shit about me, right? Like they not at all. I think it was like after maybe the second episode with Frank, or maybe after the one that it was maybe like my third or fourth that I'd put out that like people started to actually pay attention to what I had to say, right? So it's like you got to earn your stripes a little bit. I had to earn my stripes. I'm still earning my stripes, right?
Real one's got the roast umber coffee though.
Facts, big facts. So okay, so what?
But you know what people don't see on the back end of that is like the time and effort that goes into doing this stuff. And like you're not gonna see a return on your investment like in the snap of a finger.
No.
Like there's legitimate people in this space that have showed up consistently every single day. And whether that be engaging with people, tweeting with people, building relationships, showing up to events, building cool shit and failing at building this cool shit and then continuing to build cool shit. Like it's like those types of people, I salute every single one of you that have like come in this space and like tried to create something that pushes this space forward in any type of way possible. Because like without any of y'all, none of this shit exists. Like whether down to like doing t-shirts and all the way to like coding the back end of like some amazing like DApp or whatever the case is. It's just like without any of y'all, like this shit doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? And it's like people don't see that time and effort that goes in the back. Like they see a community member, like let's say doing merch or selling something, and they're just like, oh, well, they're making money right away. Where's this money going? And all this type of stuff. And it's just like, you don't understand the type of time and effort that goes into like doing logistics, production, putting out products, taking content, like whatever the case may be, and the investment that goes behind it, to where it's like you're not even seeing a positive profit or nothing like that yet, but you're doing it for the sole fact that you know continuing to like show up and do this is going to lead to where you want to be one day in this space, right?
And it may never lead to anything, right?
Yeah,
like
it may never.
You may flop on it, and that's part of life, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
And there's going to be something,
but that shouldn't stop you from trying.
100%. You should learn from that, right? Like the greatest L's I've ever taken in my life, I've learned the most from, right? So it's like you can't be afraid to just do something and have people not like it at all. Learn from that, right? Like every time I do a podcast, I try to learn from it in terms of like, how can I make this conversation that much better? How can I get, more love on the Twitter clip that goes alongside it, right? Like there's so many things, but it's constantly learning, and like that learning phase never stops, and it's just constantly reiterating on things and stuff like that. But okay, so next I want to go into clubs, and I'm going to say, so the term DAO is what most people know, sub DAOs, shit like that. We're just going to go with clubs because I'm tired of saying sub DAO, just sounds stupid as hell.
And also like, I mean, most of them are not DAOs. Let's just keep it a buck. We're subgroups, we're clubs within communities, and it's like,
yeah, Monkey DAO is a DAO. The rest of us are a bunch of fucking posers, okay? So Monkey DAO is the only DAO in Solana. Sorry, it is what it. No, actually, I'm gonna get flamed. Somebody's gonna come up with. I know there's a few other.
Bruh,
DAOs,
if you don't put some respect on the nouns.
No, the nouns DAO. The nouns DAO. Okay, there are a few. There are a few. The majority. I hate the term DAO.
Yeah,
I'll just say
100%.
Clubs.
For the most DAOs are just group chats.
All right, so let's go into that. So give me the 30-second elevator pitch on what is y00tletics, and we'll go further from there.
Yeah, y00tletics is a Web3 sports and community brand, built underneath the y00ts IP.
There we go. That wasn't even 30 seconds. You gave me a smooth 10 seconds.
Let's get it.
So what I want to go into from there is when you were first coming up with that, right? You initially had this idea, correct me if I'm wrong, of like, okay, there's all these different like characteristics of y00ts that are like athletic based, right? So instead of having the D-Goat merch, which was pretty specific to having the jersey on your D-God, right? Instead of that, you were like, I'm going to create this athletic merch that goes with all the characteristics that the y00ts have that are athletic adjacent, right?
Yeah.
And then you put out the original mock-ups and came out with the, put them up for sale and everything like that. And there was initially like a really large buzz around that, right? And then talk to me about like, what happened after that? Because, and the reason why I frame it that way is I think a lot of times people think, okay, you're going to put something out. Maybe it gets a lot of love from the beginning. Maybe it gets no love from the beginning. But then let's say it starts off with a lot of love. I think they automatically think that's just going to maintain, right? So I want to know from you, because when I think about these sub-DAOs, these clubs and things like that, a lot of them really take time to build up this like really, really passionate group of people, right? So for you, when you came out with the merch, what was the initial reaction? And then kind of what happened after that? And what has it led to since then?
Yeah. So like initial reaction based off of what you were saying. Yeah. So Digo was just a little bit too niche, and I really had this idea of like taking this brand to a place where potentially the designs and things that we put out can be worn by people that aren't even holders, right? And putting out like that type of like athleisure brand that could be up there with some of your favorite like athletic brands today, right? And you know, if we're able to get it to where like holders or non-holders are wearing this clothing, I think that's a massive dub, right? And so the idea behind it was always to kind of like be this brand. And I think because of what I had already created, I felt really good about like putting these pre-orders. We got a bunch of these mock-ups made. And the first initial like run was really to like bring a lot of these traits to life. So like the jersey, the baseball jersey, this is the one that, you know, that the youths wear. Got a football jersey, basketball jersey, like the hockey jersey, brought all those to life, right? And wanted to just like focus like slightly on just like bringing traits to life. And then the other part was just doing like really dope merchandise in terms of tees. Like got this win-win tee, and other tees, couple hoodies and that sort of thing. And really just that as like a first capsule collection, right? And then from there, definitely had a lot of bumps in the road as far as doing the merch. It wasn't as smooth as I anticipated or expected. A lot of just a lot of things out of my control. Some things that just like, you know.
Give an example. One of the things you dealt with.
So I mean, one of the manufacturers, like a tragedy happened during that area, an earthquake, and so like obviously that's going to delay a bunch of production. And then for another company, it was like they themselves had a bad actor within their team. That was kind of like trying to poach clients, and that kind of just like wasted a lot of time in terms of like getting the production going. And those are just like small things that just like happen like based off of companies that you're working with, right, to get these things going. And so it delayed the merch coming in a lot, and it was just like it kind of felt like we were in this kind of like stuck position of just like there's not a whole lot we can like put out or do or that sort of thing, because like we're just really waiting for this merch, and the people that ordered are also waiting for this merch. Like I'm probably more frustrated than our customers that like this stuff isn't coming in. You know what I'm saying? But you got to roll with the punches with that, right? And like I just knew that the stuff that we're putting out is like quality. Like once people get it in their hands, they're gonna absolutely love it. But that wait time is like very much not something that we want to like obviously move forward with. And so that kind of created some lull periods, and like through that was definitely trying to do a lot of community activations. We've been doing like this step challenge like since the beginning of the year. It's like 4 weeks, every 4 weeks. And, you know, on the last one, we got like almost like 50 people to join. And it's just like a cool little thing. You pay like $40-$50, whatever our entry fee is. And as long as you hit your goals, like you get that money back, and anybody that drops, like obviously loses their money, but it's just like a fun thing to like, you know, keep you moving and keep you active. And so that was kind of my first taste in terms of doing like more community building type of things. And wanted to just continue to like collaborate within the space and that sort of thing. And where I really felt like we've hit a stride was during NFT LA, when we did the pickup basketball and dodgeball event. And that was just something like, you know, having connections out here and whatever the case may be, I was able to put that together in like literally like a week and a half. And like, it was dope. Like it popped off. There was a bunch of people that aren't part of Utes that showed up, that registered. And I think like probably at like peak, we had like maybe 120 people that are just like in this gym. We don't have alcohol. Like we have a food truck outside that's like selling food, and we're just playing basketball. People are like chopping it up on the sidelines. There's people playing ping pong and just like having a good time. And like the feedback and the response to that event was like, I think I just fumbled into something that's like bigger than just building a clothing brand. And so that's when it kind of like clicked even more for me.
Yeah, and I mean, even I think there's so many lessons that other people could take away from the event that you did, because when you first told me about it, it was like playing basketball essentially at like 10 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
After like 3 days of people nonstop boozing and all that kind of stuff, right? So even myself, I remember you were like, yeah, 10 p.m. And I was like, God damn it, man, I'm trying to get some sleep. Like,
yep.
And then I think I was there till 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And I was having so much fun that I was like, I just don't want to leave, right? And so to me, the way I look at that is like,
bro, Frank closed out the event.
Right. I mean,
we was in there. It was like 8 people left, and me, Frank, my boy Greasy, and Van Gogh. We're playing just like 2-on-2 at like 1:45 in the morning. Like, yo, what are we doing right now?
And that's where I think people can take lessons from that, of like, go and do things, right? Like, it's not, when we think about clubs, it's not like you automatically have to go and do merch, right? Like, obviously you did merch, but like, you don't have to go and do something like that. You can literally do anything. And I think a lot of times people think, well, there has to be this like massive group of people, or like maybe I live in a area where there's not a lot of like Web3 people. It's like, dude, a group can start with 2 or 3 people and it can become this massive thing. It's just a matter of getting started, right? And so if you get 3 people in your local area that go do something once a week, whatever that may be, and then all of a sudden you each invite a person. Now you got 6 people. They each invite somebody. Now we got 12 people, right? It just keeps growing like that, right? It's multiples. That's how it works. And so if you're focusing on just creating fun events, other people are going to talk about it. And so you did the NFT LA, basketball pickup game, right? And you had a ton of people that came to that. Fast forward a month, NFT New York comes, you had another pickup,
bro,
right?
Not even a month.
What
like
up?
2 weeks.
What up? Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing about that is like, I didn't even have my like NFT New York like trip, nothing planned during NFT LA. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have that plan, nothing of the sort. And like based off of the response that we got in LA, how many people showed up, and how many people were talking about it, like even after the fact. Like I had some people come up to me that was just like, yeah, I mean, I didn't go to any of the other like events this week. It wasn't necessarily my vibe, but like I was making sure that I was pulling up to this one. And you just had like some more intimate conversations that sometimes you might not have, like yelling over like music with a drink in your hand in another venue. Not to say that there's anything wrong with those events, because I have a lot of fun at those types of events too. But I think there's just an aspect of like these events kind of being more complementary to those types of events to balance out whatever a week might be. So then I based off of the response, I was like, fuck it, like whipped up the New York event and saw that there was courts right across the street from the DNYC hotel. And I was like, yo, let's just pull up across the street and see if we could take over the park. And that's literally exactly what happened. Like we pulled up, we had 2 games, full court running, bunch of people on the sideline, just vibing out. And it was a lot of fun. Like it was just, and that was an outdoor court too. You know what I'm saying? It was literally just like pull up to the park and take over a park. And even there we had like damn near like 80 to 100 people show up, even if they weren't playing, just to like come through and kick it, which was super dope. I think it just like provides a different level of connection.
And I think once again that goes back to, you just got to get started, right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't have to do the NFT LA event, but you did that, and it led to everybody wanting you to do it for the NFT New York event, right? So if you were offering advice to somebody right now who maybe they're in a project, doesn't matter what project it is, and they're debating getting a club going within that project, what would you recommend to them in terms of like how to get people excited about what they're doing?
Bro, the biggest thing is just starting and just like thinking about different ways that potentially provides value to the overarching brand and the people that you potentially want as like your future customers or people that are within your community, whatever the case may be. Just think of different things that might provide them value, right? Like I've done all like types of things from like, trying to help people get active to like, all right, let's do this event, to like, we're doing merch, to like whitelist opportunities and like, and just like talking with different people and just trying to connect and collaborate. It's just like don't limit yourself because of what you think something is supposed to be, or what like people quote like expect from you or something like that. Like if you've like, for example, like if you've never made music before, but you're just like, oh, like I think it would be really fun to like try making a song. Go fucking try and make that song. Because how are you going to know like if you can do it, if you can't do it, if you are going to create something dope or not, like if you don't at least try for it. You know what I'm saying? And going back to that whole 10 p.m. thing, it's funny because like even the owner of the gym was just like, yo, when you first told me that you wanted to do an event at 10 p.m. and have people like come play basketball, I thought you were crazy. Like he legitimately told me that. And he's like, and then when I saw how many people showed up, I was like, and he's not really into Web3 that much. He was like, yo, this Web3 NFT shit is kind of serious, huh? I was like, fam, like they pull up. Like they pull up. People are trying to do stuff and people are trying to connect. So if you're able to give that just like give a space to do that, or give an environment to do that, like people are going to support, and you'll be surprised at the things people support of you putting out if you're just trying new stuff.
And the other thing is too, you don't have to have connections. Like that's the part that I wish people understood, is that in order for you to get started with creating like a Web3 event wherever you're at, you don't have to have any sort of connection. If you go on Twitter and you literally say, I'm based in such and such, and I'm looking for people here to connect with, there's going to be other people. So if you guys start off going to a brewery and there's 3 of you, and then next thing you know, somebody sees a photo from that, they see where you're at, and they go, hey, I'm also in that region, like let me come out, right? Yeah. Next thing you know, that becomes that 6 people, becomes the 12 people, becomes the 20 people. And so I think when you look at like how other industries have done it, like if you look at the sports trading card world, right, which is another collectible world, it's easy to compare to at times. If you look at that, if you look at the big events they have all these like sports trading card expos and things like that. They have one called the National, which is always massive. And when you look at those, it's like, how do you think they got started? They didn't start with 100 people that showed up to something. They probably started with 3 people that showed up to something. And it just, if people are having fun, they're going to talk about it, right? We've already talked at nauseum about the word of mouth, right? But that's what, when people are having fun, that's what they do. They talk about it. They show people. They take photos and they show people those. If you are putting together an event and you know it's going to be decent size, get quality photos at that event, right? It's things like that that cause people to go, hey, I want to be a part of this, right? Yeah. So when you think about, it doesn't even have to be, when we think about clubs and stuff like that, I think a lot of times people think, well, it's got to be this like, niche part of like a certain project. It really doesn't have to be that either. If you just want to make a Web3 event, all you got to do is go on Twitter, talk about where you want to do it, talk about who you like, talk about the region that you're at and everything like that. There's going to be people that are within that area, right? So it's all about just getting started. And, I think from there, people you just can't be afraid. You just got to get started and see where it goes. And so,
and to be honest, a lot of the connections come from like, after you starting to do something. Mm-hmm. To your point, like if you do like, hey, yo, who wants to go grab freaking what you always get known for, who wants to go grab sausages and beer in LA, some rattlesnake sausages. It's like, who wants to go, who wants to pull up? And it's just like, hey, yeah, I'm down. And you get 5-6 people. Cool. That first one is 5-6 people. Next one's 12. And like, certain people start taking notice, and you start just like making connections off of the fact that like you are doing these events. You know what I'm saying? And I think the other aspect of that too is like, if you're by yourself, like it's just you and you want to create something and you want to make something happen, do it. Like you don't need to wait for like other people that maybe want to found this club with you, or like want to help you on this, or whatever the case may be. Whatever skills you have, just put it on the table and try and make some shit happen.
Yeah, I mean 100%, couldn't agree more. And I think so where I want to pivot to next is the big 3. And the reason why I want to pivot there is because all of this that you've done has now parlayed into you working with the team on some big 3 events, right? And so I wanted to take it back to even a year ago when they announced the big 3 acquisition. What were your original thoughts? And you can be as blunt as possible. What were your original thoughts when they first announced that?
Honestly, I fucking loved it. It's funny because we joke about this on the Divine Council that was once a thing in D-Gods, that was like the one thing that we got to like vote on and like talk about. Frank just one day popped in there and he was like, yo, what if we bought a basketball team? And we were like, the fuck are you talking about? He's like, a big 3 basketball team. And I mean, me personally, I was like, run that. Completely run that. You know what I'm saying? And to me, the reason why I was like that, it's like, obviously people came out and they were like, oh, it's washed players, it's this, it's that, like all this sort of stuff. Who wants to watch this? Whatever the case may be. Listen, that summer, there was people that don't even care about basketball that was watching basketball and Big Three just because they wanted to root for the team that D-Gods owns. And that's powerful. There's a lot of power in that, because there's a lot of like aspect of it spreading, whatever the case may be, from those fans. Aside from that, I mean, fam, you're on national TV, like CBS, like these games are getting covered. They're going to get covered by like bigger media outlets, like, you know, and it's very early on in the league. If it flops down the future, whatever the case may be, fine. But like right now, it's just like, it's hype. And like even in the case of like NFTs, how it seems like people are looking for something like every week. Imagine if like your project had something to look forward to every week for like X amount of time. This is what, like 8 weeks, 9 weeks out of the year, where it's just like, for one, you can look forward to like, there's a game that your project of a team that your project owns. And so I think there was just like so much power in that whole like sports and just like media distribution aspect of it.
And to me, the way I looked at it is like, and it goes back to the beginning of the conversation where we talked about like, you can't be afraid to swing and miss. Like,
yeah.
if people love it or people hate it, that's a good thing. If people are just kind of like, all right, then it didn't do anything to cause any sort of wave, right? So when that announcement came, people either loved it or people fucking hated it. And to me, I looked at that as, I was like, that's a positive, right? Because you can't be afraid to swing and miss. You're going to miss a lot of times, right? Like people use the baseball analogy all the time. If you get a hit 3 out of 10 at bats, you're considered an elite player in Major League Baseball, right? So it's like, you can't be afraid to swing and miss. You're gonna miss a lot. And so the way I looked at it was like, okay, if the whole Big Three is a flop, it is what it is. Like it's the same thing with people who, you know, with The Rock creating like the XFL and the AFL and all these different other leagues. Like you can't be afraid to try something, because there's going to be certain things that take off and there's going to be certain things that don't. But everybody has to start somewhere, right? And we've seen certain leagues that have grown over time. The WNBA has gotten way more love in the last year than they ever got before that. Women's college basketball has gotten a ton of love in the last year, which is now leading to more people wanting to watch the WNBA, right? But
well, even aside from just like leagues, look at how many like creators are based around sports, like basketball content creators and like other content creators. They even have like content creator leagues and all this type of stuff. And they get like random fans like that, like tune into it or watching it or like paying attention to it on social media, whatever the case is. Like sport is just one of those things that brings people together. And that's why like you had so many people that were like, hey, I don't know shit about basketball, but I'm going to support the fuck out of this team because I love D-Gods. You know what I'm saying? And like, to me, that's a dub. And like, I mean, honestly, owning a fucking basketball team, like that just sounds lit. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you fade that? Honestly.
And that's where people get into semantics, right? Because you'll get some people that are like, well, do you actually own a team? Okay, no, listen, no, that's not the way it's structured. Yes, we do not completely own a basketball team. Yes, I know the t-shirt is a funny thing. I laugh at it when people are rocking.
I mean, if they sell the team, do they make money?
Right. Yes. But I get, do you have like complete, true 110% ownership? No, you don't. Okay. I get it. Whatever. I understand that. But the reality of it is, it's something that it's a new thing. You know, Ice Cube was trying out something new. The team went for it. And that's those things where you don't know if it's going to work or if it's not going to work, but you can't be afraid to try. And that is my biggest thing. And, you know, people can, once again, if they're fudding it or they're loving it, it's a good thing. If they're just kind of mediocre towards it, it made no waves. So you can't be afraid to make waves. You have to make waves. If people aren't talking about it on Twitter, it didn't hit. It's boring. Yeah. People didn't like it. That's the reality of it. And so, you know, when I go to that, like, and then you think about taking all these risks, right? You took a risk by creating the D-Goat merch, right? You took a risk by creating y00tletics. They took a risk by acquiring the Big Three. You took a risk by doing the NFT LA event at 10 p.m., right? All these risks led to now you're going to be traveling with the team. I'll let you announce this here.
I'm going on tour.
He's going on
the
tour.
GOAT tour.
So
coming to a city near you.
And so talk about it. What are you doing with the team?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of surreal, not gonna lie. But pretty much, I mean, they reached out to me and they were just like, you know, we love what you did with both the Youth Athletics events. And I was already like trying to talk to them as well. In terms of like certain like upcoming events that I want to do as well, like trying to make those pickup games happen kind of more often. And from that just became this conversation of just like, listen, like we want to make these like big three games kind of like overall experiences. You know what I'm saying? Like you have the big three game, but we want to do like meetups in those cities, potentially host some pickup games in those cities as well. And, you know, obviously get that going and just have a really good time for community holders, fans, and potentially even other like owners of other teams and that sort of thing. And just a way for us to all get together on a like every weekend basis. And so, you know, I personally, like even before this, like I definitely have experience in just kind of like creating itineraries, that sort of thing, travel and like doing different things. Obviously, I like was able to kind of create that event like super last minute and make everything go. And so I think all of that just kind of put me in this position to be able to make that happen. And like that goes back to the whole aspect of just like if you're doing dope shit and building dope shit, eventually it is going to get recognized and you know, you're going to get support from some direction. You're going to get support, you know what I'm saying? And this is that. So yeah, we're going to go I'm going to be hosting an event in every city. I think there's Chicago, Dallas, New York, Memphis, Miami, Charlotte, Detroit. And every weekend is going to be a fucking vibe. So if you're in any of those cities or planning on flying to any of those cities, like we're going to have a weekend full of just like fun ass shit going on.
And all of that stemmed from you taking risks, right? And so that's the part that I think is like so important is like, man, take risks. Because I see people all the time that are like, I want to be like a Twitter space host. And I'm like, okay, hey, go for it. But there's also a trillion people, right? Why not do something that's a little bit different, right? If you went and you were like, you know what, I'm going to make a YouTube video where I go over like the biggest news in Solana or Ethereum or Polygon or all the above every single week. And I'm just going to do it once a week on Sundays or something like that, right? That would be dope. People would watch that. People would support that. If somebody was like, hey, I'm watching these big three games. Now I'm going to create a recap video of each game. That would be sick. Who knows? You might even get the big three that goes, this is super cool. We're going to hire you to work for the big three, right? It's like, if you take something that you enjoy and you create content around it or do anything else, you don't have to just do content, right? If you're somebody that's in one of these cities and you're like, hey, we want to host an event, you know, and they reach out to you, right? It's like all it takes is you taking a risk, taking a step. You got to step forward to get anywhere, right? So it's all about that, and that's what like that's been my favorite part about you and seeing everything that you've done is like it started with nobody told you, hey, you got to create these D-Goat shirts, right? And it's like you did that, it kept going places, and look what you're doing now. It's super cool. I mean, I'm pumped to see all the content that comes out from this. It's gonna be crazy.
I mean, what's dope is like even last year, I remember I was like, however I can get involved, like let me get involved, like as soon as the team announcement happened, right? And to be sitting here like a year later and get to actually like work with the team in some sort of capacity to help them with their big three season and just like create along the way and be around basketball, like that's just like it's surreal. Like I'm super thankful, grateful, and it's just like it's really dope the type of stuff that can come up from, again, just like you going out there and just showing up every day, creating and just like doing dope stuff in the space.
100%. So, okay, I want to go from here. In a perfect world, like what do you want to see Youth-letics evolve into, right? So now we've seen merch, we've seen events, you know, fast forward a year from now, what do you want to see happen for Youth-letics?
Fast forward a year from now, I think it's just, I want us to be in a position to just be putting out like really dope and hype drops, like on a, maybe like on a every week, 2-week basis, and kind of through that like season, if you would, like kind of similar to how streetwear does it. And also be able to continue to host these community events and have ambassadors underneath the brand that are able to do that in different cities as well. So we're just getting active all around the world.
So, okay, so if somebody wants to get involved, if they're like, hey, I want to plan an event, how can they reach you?
Twitter's the best place, honestly. Telegram too. I mean, email, obviously, like all that sort of stuff. But Twitter is really like the best place. Just shoot me a DM, shoot y00tletics a DM, and we'll definitely make something happen. I think one of the best like parts about this space is being able to make collaborations happen with other people that have like expertise in certain places. So
okay, so speaking of collaboration, so you also are doing something with Mad Lads too, right?
Not with Mad Lads directly, but like made some merch for them. Made a Mad Athletic tee. And Armani's super cool. He like supported it, everything of that sort. Gonna send him a tee for sure. But I think that's just one of those things where it's just like being able to like create underneath the Utes brand. You're kind of able to take that experience and potentially bring it to other communities that you really, really like, right? Like I want to do some stuff under like Colcer as well, and just like under other like communities, and just figure out ways where we can like work together in terms of potentially putting on other IRL activations, like bringing some value to their community members as well. Because I think there is this kind of dope like overarching aspect of like communities also connecting with one another, right? Like D-Gods connecting with Mad Lads, connecting with Clanos, connecting with Pudgies, connecting with Azukis. Like there's so much like dope collaboration and just like knowledge that can be shared. And so to be able to bring those types of people into the same room and just like supporting the same cause, I think is just like a massive dub for all of us.
100%. I think it's so important to just like bring people together. I always say it all the time, but like none of this is a competition. It's if you've got a bunch of people who are fans of going to like EDM festivals, then create it like a group within like Rave 3 that you can go do a bunch of shit, right? Yeah. If you are, we've already seen like the really cool skateboarding event that Fast Eddie in Liberty Square put on. But like if you've got a bunch of people in your local area that go skateboarding, then like do something with Liberty Square. There's so many different things that you can do, and then you don't necessarily have to be a part of a community to like do something with that community, right? I think sometimes people forget that. It's like, dude, not everybody can afford to join every community, and I get that. It's tough. These NFTs are not cheap, and so that doesn't mean you can't do something within them,
For sure.
And it's like, so if you've got an idea, pursue it, do something. So we'll end it with this. And we'll go over the merch real quick before we do that. But if somebody's watching this and they're just looking for like a little bit of advice on just kind of how to get their feet wet with Web3, is there anything that any advice you'd like to give them?
Just dive in. Just get as hands-on as possible, as creative as possible, and just start making stuff happen. Whether that's like making merch, making art, being a reply guy, like whatever that looks like, making connections, just like start doing whatever it is in the direction that you think you want to go because of what you're seeing in the space. And that might lead to other opportunities and, other rabbit holes, whatever you want to say. But like, you're not going to get anywhere by just being like, oh, I really want to do this, or I really want to start this. Just like, if you have that idea, like figure out today how you want to execute on that idea.
100%. And I think, once again, when you look at the other industries that you can compare us to, the sports trading card world, the actual like physical art world, all of those are known to have these big events, right? And all of that started with somebody just getting one person, two people together, and next thing you know, that can turn into something else, right? You and I are talking about going to Topgolf this weekend with some Web3 people in LA, right? It's like you do that with 6 people, next time you get 12 people, next time it keeps growing, right? Facts. And so it's just a matter of getting started. And so I know we've already said that like a trillion times in this podcast, but I think the biggest thing that I want people to take away from this is just get started, do something, don't be afraid to fail. We all fail all the fucking time. Like, it is a normal, important part of life to fail. Man, if you never fail, life would be boring, right? Yeah. Like, you got to fail sometimes. You learn from that.
And that's something we have to give more grace to in this space. Like, you have to give more grace to the people that are failing in front of your eyes, whether that be with projects, whether that be with like their accounts, content, whatever the case may be. Like, at least they're out there creating and out there trying to figure out ways to like push this space forward, and through their failures they're still showing up day after day. So I just think like overarching there's just more grace needs to be given. Like, obviously there's scammers, whatever, but as far as failing goes, like, it's okay to fail.
And also show people some love when you see them trying, right?
Facts.
Hitting people with a retweet, hitting people with a like. People are way too soft on the retweets. Just start giving some more retweets, okay? Give a comment, give a quote tweet. Show people love who are actually trying to do things. Because when we talk about this space moving forward, it requires every single one of us. If you're watching this right now, it requires you to help move this space forward. It requires you, it requires me, it requires anybody else who's watching this or whatever. It's like we have to support each other if we want to see this move forward, right? So, I think that's my biggest thing. But before we wrap this up, let's go over some of the merch. You got some of the merch. Let me give some live reviews, the whole 9. So let's
do it.
Yeah, let's pull out some of the items. What do we got?
For one, we got the everyday tee. We got a nice little embroidery on the front.
There we go.
Utes Athletic on the back. Feel free to feel that.
And what I love about that, as you're pulling out the next item, it's like, man, the embroidery on the OO is so fire. I love that. That might be my favorite part of these items.
Yeah, no, facts. I love the 00. Like, it's just so dope. Got a nice football jersey. Might have to re-release these for the football season. Just super something light.
Oh, dude, I
Utes
like
on the back.
I haven't even seen that.
00. That's what I'm saying. We just want to bring these different traits to life. Ooh, there you go.
Yeah, man, this is crispy. We might have to get a little pickup, little flag football game going this summer.
You feel me?
Oh, dude, I mean, I'm gonna dust a bunch of fools on that.
Oh, okay. You like that?
Well, I mean, I'm fast.
Okay.
Listen.
Let's get it.
I'm not tall, but I got some speed. Okay?
Wide receiver or what?
I'm shit. You can put me at quarterback.
Quarterback. I want to see Marc at quarterback. We're for sure making that happen this summer.
You can make me all-time QB.
Okay. He said all time. All right, word. The infamous D-Goat jersey.
Yep.
D-God's on the back.
Yep.
You see that?
These are just so fire.
The shorts to go with it as well. And this is all stitching. You know what I'm saying? Like high quality mesh, stitching. Got some gold tips. We got zippered pockets. Like all like higher quality stuff. And I remember like somebody was like fudding the price on these, but it's just like, fam, like this is high quality materials. And when you're getting things at small quantities,
hold
like,
that up
that's
one
what
more
you
time
gotta
as
do.
you're talking that. Yeah. It's like when you look at that, it's like that's premium quality shit right there. That is premium quality shit.
Bro, and I probably worn these exact shorts. I probably worn so many times, and they still look like damn near brand new.
Damn, this is a game used.
This is game used.
I can smell that ass sweat.
And then, we got the Utes basketball jersey as well. Same thing on the back.
I mean, these are just, dude, these are so fire. I love it's the little details that I love about what you did here. It's like having the Utes on that. Like, you didn't just hit them with the OO, right? Like, you hit them with the Utes on top of that. Like, that looks so crispy. Love that. To me, it's like, it's stuff like this that gets somebody to go, what is that? And ask questions, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the perfect way to wrap up this whole podcast is like, we started it with you saying that whole like merch is marketing. And that's what this is. Somebody's going to wear this and somebody else is going to ask, what is that? Right. And that to me, once again, is how we move this space forward. If you're putting together an event and people are seeing that on Instagram or whatever, and they're like, what were you doing on Friday? Oh, I had this event for such and such. That's how they ask questions. When somebody's going to NFT LA or NFT New York or Breakpoint or one of these, and someone's like, dude, where are you? It causes people to ask questions. Every time you're doing anything that causes people to ask questions, that's how we move the space forward. So if you're doing something fun, you got to keep in mind, not everything's got to be this crazy, outlandish thing. Yeah. If you just get a few people together to go get a coffee, go get a beer, do a fucking book club, like literally anything. It's like, just get started. And the greatest things, I go on Instagram every once in a while and I look at like people who just do the most random shit and like have ended up building up this gigantic audience. And it's like, even here's a random quick example. We have this family friend where he was a pilot, and at one point he just got kind of tired of like flying and everything like that. It was just kind of like, I'm kind of over it, and was trying to figure out like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? My entire life I've told myself I want to be a pilot, right? And he'd always kind of loved carpentry, and so he started watching some YouTube videos and started getting into like making his own tables, right? And so he started making those, and then he just started creating a little bit of content around like the tables that he was making. Now he's got this gigantic audience. He's got literally millions of people who follow him and are buying his tables for like $20,000, $30,000, right?
Damn.
And it's like, all it takes is getting started. So,
literally,
I think that's the biggest thing I want people to take away from this. Just get fucking started.
And not being afraid to to that point, like, bro started making tables, right? I'm sure he didn't go into making tables thinking like, yo, I'm going to charge $40K for these tables one day. It was just like, yo, I've always wanted to try carpentry. Like, I wanted to start creating some of these. Like, I'm going to start doing it. And, like, obviously documenting the process is, like, really dope. Putting it out there, and you just start, like, getting a feel for what people want. Like, even this whole, like, pick up basketball thing, it was just, like, got a feel for, like, what people want. And now it's just, like, even at that gym, like, I'm hooping with some people that are in Web3. Shout out to Menace, shout out to Min, shout out to Thread Guy. Like, we've just all been in that gym at the same time, and it's just like dope. Like, this is sick. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's just about doing things that like you want to do as well. Like, so many times people get wrapped up in like, what should we do? What's like the expectation of us? All this sort of stuff. Fuck that. Like, do what you want to do and like figure out where that might take you.
Facts. All right, dude. Drop your Twitter. Where can people find you? We'll leave it with that.
Find me at Sunny Maanz. Find me in your city this summer. If you got something to prove on the court, come through, play pickup. We're going to have some private Web3 runs in LA too, and let's get it popping. And at y00tletics for the brand.
There we go. Well, hey, appreciate you coming over here and doing this. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and pumped to see everybody at the Big 3 events, and pumped to see everybody just at more. We're going to be doing a lot of shit, so let's have some fun, and it's going to be a fun summer, man.
It's going to be a fun-ass summer. Let's get it.
There we go. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll chat with you guys soon. See you guys.
Let's get it.